Good evening, Internet, and welcome to Top Shift 86. This is the review of Beta 2.3, which has been released for the last, I think, couple of weeks now. And one of the things I thought I'd do is, instead of doing just little updates now and again, I'd just do a review of all the highlights that I've seen so far. Well, what we've got here is the first part of 2.3, one of the first headline features, which is the Holo Me. Now, this is a vague attempt at trying to do my face. Not a very good one. I don't think I look that ugly. I'd like to look that nice, but I think I'm too young these days. But yeah, as you can see, there are tons and tons of options to make you try to either create an alter ego, which is nice to look at, or in my case, trying to be lifelike. I mean, I suppose that's alright, but the thing is, I'd have to have an artist go over and get do a serious photo and Holo Me comparison. But I think that's what the best I can do for the moment. We are in Freeholm at the moment, which, for those of you who are a little bit of elite aficionados, you will find Freeholm in the book Elite Legacy, which is the book you get if you got the collector's edition. Now, at the moment, you can see I'm just selecting a few ships, and hopefully we'll be able to fly out using something nice. I mean, I'm trying to find something that I can Holo Me with, but looks like we'll just have to leave with the Sanctimonious. Yes, she's got a name now. This is the Asp Sanctimonious, which is named after an elite-based story that I was writing. And we are inside Freeholm, which, if you know the story, we are inside an asteroid base. One of the first asteroid bases that's been released with the game. Now, you can see it's refinery. It's all got all the rocks in it. It's basically like a Coriolis station, but as you can see, they've done an awful lot of work to make it feel like you're inside a rock. It's fantastic, actually. It's when you actually fly into that in VR, it's an absolutely uplifting experience. Now, one of the things that I'm going to try now is the second headline feature, which will be the camera. Now, there's a whole lot of vanity cameras which have been added to 2.3. Now, these cameras are vastly superior to the debug camera that we've been mucking about with so far. The hope from Frontier's point of view is that people will be able to now generate really flashy videos. Now, at the moment, I haven't really got the hang of it at this particular point. We'll just have to muck about, but there we are. Right, so this is rear view. Obviously, we can see the space dock. That's above the pilot view. Now, this was in the original 2.3 release. Oh, pilot! Oh, look at the scanner. I never knew that the holographic scanner was like that in front of the pilot. Obviously, the pilot view itself. Now, some of these views have been changed in later versions. This was 2.3, the first release. Now, I've had problems downloading, but Frontier support helped me out. Now, that is the second co-pilot seat. That means that an ASP will be able to take more than one crew member, which of course means that you can set an ASP up with a gunner. Now, there's quite a few ships, I think about 10 or so, which you will be able to have extra crew in as a gunner, and we'll touch on that later. But at the moment, I'm trying my best here to get my head around the cameras. There seems to be three modes. There's free camera mode, which works very, very similar to how the old debug camera used to work. And then you can, you see, this is one thing that you can do, is you can actually lock the camera to the ship. And when you lock to the camera to the ship will then start, you know, the controls will then control the ship, so you can actually remotely control the ship from an external view. Now, I was initially worried that this means that it could give you an advantage in combat, but as we can see here, although the results are quite nice, they are a little bit fiddly to use, which wouldn't give you an advantage on a one-to-one fight anyway. Now, this is just a quick rotate round and trying to get the hang of the camera here, but yeah, it will take me a little while to get used to it, but I think once you get used to it, the results will be fantastic. Now, the other thing you can do is you can lock the camera to the world like that. Now, when you lock the camera to the world, it means that the camera is left in this particular position, and it means you can, and when it's locked, then the controls revert back to your ship. Now, as you can see here, I'm remote controlling my ship a bit like a remote aircraft, and yeah, this, I will admit, this is getting a little bit difficult to control. I can now, now locked it back to the ship again, so we're basically in selfie mode, so you can switch between both modes quite nicely. The problem that I do have is when it goes off, I sometimes lose the ship. You see, I can't see where I've put my ship now. Oh, it's going to take a little bit of practice to get rid of. Now, all that HUD information there, that can be disappeared. It can be made invisible, so that you can get some good footage. But it's always useful to have that up when you're trying to get the hang of it. There we are. Are we getting there yet? I think we are. Having a quick look around the ship, just getting a feel for the camera controls. But it is really nice to boost your engines. It gives you a nice little feeling of drama, cinematic even. Ooh, that looks nice. Purple lasers. I wonder if I can try and get that a bit better. You can see the potential here for creating video. Ooh, and a quick flip over into the locked world. Let's see if I can bring the ship back. I wonder if I can do a flyby. That'd be good. Doing a flyby might be a little bit too much to ask after this bit. I might need a bit of practice for it. I think I've lost my ship again. Oh, no, here she comes. No. Honestly, this is actually really difficult to control. Ooh, I do like the lasers though. As you can see, I've paid, I think, £1 for the different coloured lasers. These are supposed to be either magenta or pink. I'm not going to show which. Probably magenta. That doesn't look too bad. Let's back it up and see if we can do a hit the thrusters. Oh, damn! You didn't see that, unfortunately. Which I'm going to need some practice to get the best of that. Try again. Okay. See, the problem is, of course, as I've shown before, once the ship, there you go, a little bit of afterburner. Oh, I'm going to need to practice that a lot more. And I've lost the ship again. So, moving on. This is the gun review. I have joined Commander Bewilderbeast as a gunner in his Further Lance. Now this is quite interesting. This is the big headline feature of 2.3, the multi-crew. For those of you who don't know, and let's be honest, there's probably not a lot of you that don't, the multi-crew is where you can join another person's ship and take over either a gunner role, a fighter role, or just be an observer. So one of the things that I do find that is a little bit difficult at the moment is that when you first go into this mode, you've got to set up these controls, and they can be a little bit fiddly. You'll also notice the amount of controls that you have in Elite Dangerous has exploded since we got the fighters. So many more to sort out. So some people prefer to use the gunner role, to have the gunner under mouse control. I'm preferring to keep it under joystick control, actually. I do feel it's still, the mechanics behind it doesn't necessitate you switching over to the mouse. But this is me in my pilot seat, or rather my co-pilot seat, and that's to show the orientation of the ship in front of me. Now, as you can see, I'm doing a lot of checking on the system. So of the three roles that are available, there is pilot. That can't change. You can't get a separate player in the pilot role. Ooh, here we are at a space station, and a nice external view with the gunnery. As you can see, a very, very nice purple pirate paint job for Mr. Bewilderbeast there. And doing a nice little bit of flight assist off as we just fly by the system. Now, one of the reasons you might notice that the sound is switched off, that's nothing to do with my setup. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to record my parts of the conversations between me and Commander Bewilderbeast as this was happening. Oh, watch out. Oh, well, let's just say we didn't see that. We didn't see that bad piloting. So it's right for showing off, but we didn't see it. Anyway, yeah, my dialogue wasn't recorded, which was a bit of a shame because it was quite exciting, the two of us, when we were actually cooperating to get the best firing solution on some of the ships that we'll be dealing with. Now, as you can see here, this gunnery view does give a full 360 degree view around the whole ships, and of course that is what I was originally worried about. If you could do this in single player mode, and have a NPC pilot while you pop into the gunnery chair, it could change the whole nature of Elite Dangerous. And there's me and Commander Bewilderbeast. I hate to say this, but it does look as if we've just had a major argument, and this is the awkward silence afterwards. Is he saying something? No, I'm not going to talk to him. I'm not going to talk to him. But I must admit, it does give some fantastic camera angles on this one. And we haven't got any facilities to give your commanders some kind of emote or mood to be in, because I know in some MMOs you can switch it through so your commanders can be happy or sad or drunk, and they all behave in a certain way. But at the moment we've just got stoic or silent stroke grumpy. So at the moment we are flying in Super Cruise to see if we can track down some bounties. And even in the second seat, you still get plenty of information. You'll also notice that in the power distributor, there's an extra Scion dot. Now that's the power pip I control. The helm will be able to control all the others, but I get one extra pip, which I can flip between either of the three systems depending on how we're doing. So the commander of the vessel can actually, make a request for me to put all my power into shields or all my power into weapons. And I must admit, though, I am still loving the Third Alliance. It is just, I think, the perfect arrow ship. Always reminds me of the car from Starsky and Hutch for some reason when it's in its original paint job. But yeah. But I am pleased to say Sandro Samarco has said that it was never intended to have the commander in a gunnery seat. Right, so here we have our first victim stroke target. And my God, an Imperial Clipper. And I must admit, this is actually fun. When we were doing this was, it was surprising how much firepower and how much of an advantage it gives you, these turrets. Even though turrets are individually less powerful than their gimbaled or fixed weapon equivalents, just the fact that you can fire them in this kind of coordinated fashion, it's fantastic. The main problem that we had with the Third Alliance is the heat, but you always get that with the Third Alliance. You have to be very careful with the heat management in this ship. But as you can see, shields are almost gone, and it gives you a fantastic view of those detailed models of the ships themselves, which is something you don't actually get a chance to appreciate sometimes. Oh damn, shields are back up again. Now, I would say this is the equivalent of flying in a couple of Third Alliances in a wing. Just the advantage of the gunner is that much. And yeah, I am quite relieved that you're not going to be able to do this in single player, because I think if that was the case, just plopping into the gunner's chair while an NPC flies your ship, it would imbalance the game too much. Everybody would have to do it, and although it's fun for multi-crew, I don't think it would work for single player, or rather for the pilot to do it, because it really does break the immersion of flying in a single, in charge of your own ship. It moves everything from a first-person immersive feel to a third person. I mean, I actually had a very similar experience when playing iWar 2, because in iWar 1 they had a gunnery station which was very similar to this, but in iWar 2 they seemed to flip it to a third person view, which it felt it lost something. I mean, this seems to be a hybrid between the two, and I think it works quite well. You certainly still have to coordinate with the pilot in order to get to get him to fly in the right direction, so you can bring as many guns to bear as you can. So a crew that talks to one another while they play will have a substantial advantage over a crew that doesn't, which well, that's the whole point. I mean, these things are about communication. I know a lot of people were hoping for something like an engineer's role or a navigation role or something like that. But I think at this moment in time, those kind of roles, I don't think they're appropriate. Now, going back to the example of I War, you did have an engineering role. Unfortunately, the poor engineer never did anything until the ship started taking damage. And to tell you the truth, that's the point. That's the problem with it, because if you imagine you have an engineer role in this case, your poor engineer will be watching everybody else do this and having fun, and he's bored waiting until the damage comes in. I mean, it could be argued you could have a turret view like this where he directs the strongest part of the shields if they've got any, or things like that, but Frontier have said that they're going to continue to evolve the multiplayer as long as people use it, which, you know, that's a good philosophy to have, and to start with, you know, is a good enough starting point. I do get a little bit concerned that they will now leave this, just like they've kind of left CQC for too long, I think, which is another big story, and I'll get back to that to another point. But yeah, I mean, I must admit, this particular bit is an awful lot of fun, and both myself and Commander Bobo the Beast, as you can see, we were certainly racking up the kills. It was a very successful session. Now, when you end your session with your commander, you normally just have to just select the right option to leave the crew, like so, and then you're presented with this screen, which basically shows you how you've done over the last multi-crew session. And it's quite nice to have feedback that lets you know how you've been done. There are certain roles and rules that still apply to multi-crew in order to stop the system being abused. For instance, if you want to get someone in trouble, you can obviously shoot an innocent ship. However, if they've got the system set up to be lawful, then you are ejected from the crew. So here I am back in the keelback, which unfortunately is not one of a multi-crew available ships, although you think it would have been. But it does carry a fighter, but no gunner change. Now, this is another one of the additions to 2.3. This is the Dolphin liner. Now, I must admit, I have fallen a little bit for this ship. It's got some weird gun turrets, or rather real weird gun emplacements, which basically means you can only really shoot at something a little bit above the dashboard and below. It's very strange where they've put the gun turrets, but it's a fantastic ship. Now this that we're approaching here is a bar. It's a brand new civilian installation that has appeared in 2.3. It's one of the things that the guys there are they want us to test. Now, when you combine it with the Dolphin makes quite a nice little exploration ship. And obviously, it is the passenger ship, the starter passenger ship, to really have a crack at those advanced passenger missions, because you can fit a B5 luxury or a 5B luxury cabin in here, which means you get the real divas, which you can take all over the place. And to tell you the truth, it's got a decent jump range. This one here has got about 22 light years. It's fast, it's maneuverable. Armament is obviously light. And yeah, I would thoroughly recommend, if you want to give those passenger missions a try, but you don't want to shell out for the Orca. this is the ship to try out, just to sample them, and I know that it'll be one of the first missions I buy when 2.3 goes live. Really impressed with the Dolphin. Unfortunately, what I was trying to do here is I'm trying to use the data link scanner, which is a new thing that they've put in, but apparently it's not been activated yet. Now with the Dolphin, a couple of things have been added. They have taken a new pass on a couple of the ships. The Diamondback Explorer has been modded. It's got more modules and it's lighter. We've had reports of the Diamondback Explorer being able to reach now jump lengths of 60 light years. Now that's rivaling the Asp Explorer now. So for a cheap Explorer ship, then that does seem to be the one to go to instead of the Asp Explorer, because it's about 5 million credits cheaper. And it's more lightly armed though. It all depends on whether or not Frontier are going to stick true to their threat to say that from now on Explorers need to be better armed. But the other big change that they've done is they've gone and lightened the Orca. Now, I don't know whether or not this means that the Orca can land on medium pads, but they've lightened the hull by a vast amount, which means that the Orca can now get, 30 light year jump range, which, to tell you the truth, it was lacking. For a passenger vessel, it needed this kind of that kind of jump range. But yeah, Frontier say that they haven't finished all the testing yet, because there are about 5 or 6 other items I haven't touched on, such as new chained missions, the fact that they're sorting out the shield stacking. There's a whole load of small refinements. The scavenger missions and the massacre missions, they've all been changed. And of course they've got these new civilian installations installed. I mean, this bar here, we were hoping that we could dock with it, but we haven't been able to. And I haven't even touched on the megaships. Now the megaships are basically movable structures which are stationary until Frontier decide they want to move them. The first one, of course, is Fisher's Rest, which is of course a carrier, so thus, as you can see, it's a tribute to Carrie Fisher, Fisher's Rest. And here in the you can tell it's a bar because that is the first big advert for Lavian brandy, which makes me feel like I fancy a drink myself. So, well, thank you for joining me on this 2.3 update. In short, I'm really looking forward to this going live. It's been a fantastic thing to test, and I hope to see you out there.